Okay, we will start the discussion now based on the new methodology which we agreed that we will follow in reviewing the previous sessions as we do it in an interactive way. First question, what is the difference, gentlemen, between the logic infrastructure and the physical infrastructure?
So physical infrastructure is all about things which you can see in physical form, like servers, routers, switches. Logical is actually the same infrastructure in a non-physical form, like virtual switches, virtual routers, virtual LANs.
This is the right answer. As Prem, he mentioned now, the physical infrastructure, it is usually mean that it is a tangible devices. These are the tangible devices. It can be the data centers, it can be the hosts, it can be the network switches, routers, PCs, server, and so on. When we are speaking about the logical, it will be a part of the physical, it will be as a virtualization where we have actually one host which is act as one server, but logically this one server, it may be split it into 5, 10, 12, it depends upon the number of VMs which it can support based on the resources which are available on this host. This is a right answer. Okay. What is HSM, gentlemen? What is HSM?
Hardware security module.
Okay, and what does it mean? Or what is the function of HSM?
HSM is basically it's a kind of a device or a kind of a software wherein you can store the cryptographic encrypted keys usually.
Okay. Don't confuse, gentlemen, between two different cards. This it will be considered as a real confusion for most of you. We have hardware security module, which is host security module, and this is it can come in the form of a plug-in card for file servers, or in other words, in hosts for physical hosts, where it can be installed in one of the slots, or it can be external device. And it's used to perform the encryption and decryption for the digital signature, authentication, and all this stuff. Then it is not responsible for the doing the encryption and the decryption in general for the data encryption, but it's doing this for anything related to the controlling of the traffic as digital signature, authentication, authorization, and so on. These
So,
are as
so
sorry.
sir, can you also store a digital certificate in an HSM?
No. HSM mainly it will be يعني for storing this, it will be usually it will be 1 minute. Let me think about it, Prem. It can be, yes, it can be. Why? Because if it require encryption and all this stuff, it required the keys, but mainly the keys, it will be stored on the TPM. It can integrate, it can be integrated with the TPM, which is a trusted platform module. Trusted platform module, as I mentioned last week, that it's considered as a microcontroller, which we call it computer on a chip. It has its own memory processor, so and so, and it is used to perform cryptographic operations on the keys. Mainly, this it will be used for saving the primary and I mean the private and public key. This mainly it will be used for saving the private and public key. Okay.
Okay.
What are the recommended steps for protecting or hardening operating systems? Any answer? What are the recommended steps for hardening a server or host? As we mentioned, gentlemen, the server or the host, it is considered the basic entity for computing because it have the resources for the computing, processor, memory, and storage. Then this means that we have to provide protection on two different levels: hardware level and software level. Hardware level, we agreed that we have to control the BIOS, we have to control the KVMs, it should be secure KVM. KVM, it should not be able to transfer data between multiple servers, all the ports on the KVM must be disabled, and so on. Also, for the operating system, for the server, it should be protected. And this is very, very important, where all the default credentials must be deleted or renamed. All the unnecessary services, it's highly recommended to be removed. Unnecessary programs, it should be removed. Unnecessary protocols should be removed. Then you have to install the patches for the operating system and make sure that the patches are protected, installed correctly on the machines. These are the steps which are recommended for protection of the server. Also, don't forget very important concept, gentlemen. Usually they highlight in the CCSB that you have to understand how the manufacturer they are recommending the security protections. Yani if you have HP server, you have to work with HP company and understand how they recommend this protection. They may provide some additional resources which it can be very, very helpful for you for making the protection. Or it can be a third party. Also, the protection steps, it depends upon the regulatory bodies and organization policy. You may have some health environment, or I mean health data, or financial data, or privacy data. Then we have a lot of other standards which it should be followed. Then these are the recommendations. Then the protection here, it is matter of hardware and software, even if it's logic or physical, even it's logic or physical. The same approaches, it should be applied. Besides, of course, as we highlighted before, you have to do the exercise for the what we call it, the batching, that you have to make the batching. Okay. Can you give me some samples of secure protocols, secure access protocols?
Secure access protocols. SAML.
SAML, it is not access control. SAML, it is authentication authorization protocol. Secure Access Protocol as RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. You remembered, and we said that this is proprietary
Yes,
protocol. It's from Microsoft. It is not recommended, and even now, it is most of the organizations stopped this protocol because it is vulnerable. You have also the telnet. What is the secure protocol which is equivalent to the telnet?
SSH.
Yes, you are right. The SSH, this protocol, which is equivalent to the telnet. Right. What is the functionality of the jump box and how does it work?
Jumpbox is like it's like if you want to start a server on an emergency basis, it will come. It can trigger the server. It can restart the server, or it could also act in cases where there is a kind of a failover. Also, a jump box could be used.
No, no. This is not the right answer. Jump box does not have anything to do here with all this information which you mentioned. You remember we explained the jump box. Let me share my whiteboard. We mentioned, gentlemen, that the jump box or jump server, both of them are the same, exactly the same. What they are.
I think, sir. I think I remembered it. I think what you're trying to say. I think this works. I think in the Bastion host. I think DMZ zone.
Yes, yes, this is equivalent to Bastion host. And we mentioned that this is considered a very strong device which is able to be used for managing the servers from outside. From outside, you are not capable to reach the servers directly. You will be only able to make the configuration through this Bastion host or the jump box. What is this jump box or Bastion host? By the end of the day, gentlemen, it is a server, hardening server, removed service, unnecessary services, removed unnecessary protocols, have the patches, install host firewall, host IPS, anti-malware, whatever any security controls you have in your organization, it should be applied on this server. Then this means that it is a secure device, and if you need to initiate a connection from outside, it will not go direct to the servers. It will go direct to this server, and this server, it has the permission to connect to the server, when it will be able to monitor these devices. And still, again, gentlemen, again, even if you will use the jump server or whatever, it is highly recommended to use a VPN or secure protocol. Don't ever, never allow any unsecure protocol or clear text protocol to access administration interface. No way. This it will be very critical. Even we are in some situation, we are saying even for privileged user and administrator accounts, it's highly recommended to use the 2FA. It's highly recommended to use the 2FA or MFA, whatever you will call it. Okay. Right, great. I think it was a quick review for our session and the operations part, which we covered last week. I think the concepts are clear for you, but you need little bit review. You need little bit review. But as overall, this it will be enough, and I think this it will be enough to pass the exam. Today, we will start our session for the. Yes.
Sir, if you could just help I think because you told this in the last session, but I forgot it. The differences between when to use a TPM and when to use a HSM.
When to use DBM and when to use DB. Okay. By the way, this is a normal question. Usually, a lot of people they are confused, and don't worry.
Yes, I'm confused here. When to use TPM and when to use HSM?
Okay, HSM, it is a matter of perform encryption and decryption for the digital signatures and whatever any services related to cryptography. Okay? Then this means that if you have a digital signature, what is digital signature? As we will cover later, or no, we will not cover later. This it will be in CISSP, not in CCSP. Anyway, the digital signature, it will be some sort of a non-repudiation method, But this, it requires some performance, not performance, I mean calculations and signatures using the private key and the public key. Then whatever any information for private and public key process, you will use the HSM. Okay, you will use the HSM. What is the TPM, which is the Trusted Platform Module? It is a microcontroller, this number one, and it is used to perform cryptographic operations. It performs cryptographic operations. Then this means that it will do the cryptographic operation itself. Okay, it will do the cryptographic operations itself. And now the TPM, it is considered as a part of the new operating systems as Windows 11. And it is used against the ransomware and firmware attacks and all this stuff.
So, sir, so that means a TPM, when you said it's a microcontroller chip which will do cryptographic operations, which means will it do encryption also?
TBM, it will do encryption also, yes, because by the end of the day, it's a microcomputer.
Okay.
It's a microcomputer. Okay? Okay, great. I remember, gentlemen, we left one of the secure services from last session. We did not discuss it, which is the domain name service. I mentioned that it is very important, and I need enough time to explain it to you. First of all, before going and understand what is the secure domain name system, what is the functionality of DNS? Any answer? What is the functionality of the DNS?
It is basically, it gives a kind of a name to that IP address.
Name to IP address. That's right. That's right. It's a name to IP address. You are right. Then this means that if you have www dot IT certificates.net, then this means that it must be transferred into IP address. Because by the end of the day, the internet does not understand what is the meaning of these words, of these numbers. And people also, they will not be able to memorize numbers. Yani if you will tell me that, for example, my IT certificates, it's 212.93.192.5, and Microsoft, it is 1.2.3.4, and so on, then it will make life very difficult and it's not easy to understand. But if we are using the DNS, then this means that we will be able to make the naming resolution. It is called naming resolution. Of course, functionality of DNS, it is much wider than this simple definition. It is not only naming resolution, it has a lot of other functionalities as MX record, we have VA record, we have a lot of other records, but this it's not our talk right now. Just it is more than enough to understand that the DNS, this it will be the naming resolution method. For name resolution method, we mentioned that we want to utilize the DNS security. DNS security, it is very important. To understand the importance of the DNS security, we have to understand first what are the attacks which it can be compromise the DNS. Let's say, frankly speaking, I don't want to go deep in this part because this it will waste a lot of time, and by the end of the day, it's not important for CCSP. But just to understand it, I will give you some simple examples. Just imagine a hacker. He was able to compromise the DNS server of a specific company. Then, when you are typing www.itcertificates.com, it should go to this server. But the hacker, he was smart. He was able to reach to the zone file, and he changed this address from this address into 1.1.1.5. And this IP address, what is this IP address? It's his server. It's his server. This means that what will happen? Now, when we'll say www.itcertificates.net, it will send the traffic into this IP address. In some situations, gentlemen, believe it or not, when I will open the screen, it will see it the same screen as the normal itcertificates.com. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. You will find here the logo. If you have some information, if you have pictures, it will be exactly the same. And this is what we call it. This attack, what we call this attack? This attack is called phishing.
Phishing attack. Yeah, okay.
Why it is phishing? Because here I want you to cheat you that this is the IT certificates, and you may have credentials. You will enter your username and password, and of course, this it's not the IT certificates website. This it's the site of the hacker, and he will capture the username and password. And usually, this username and password he will be able to utilize it until you discover that it is not workable. And in some situations, gentlemen, hackers, we are very smart. Very smart. Why? Because they may have this hacker site. The hacker site, I will draw it in red. This is the hacker site, which we receive the connection, and it will receive the username and password. You know, sometimes what they are doing, they will receive the connection from the user, ask for username and password. The user, he will provide it. Then they will take this username and password, send it to the original site, take the feedback, and send it to the user. Then from the point of view of the user, that the traffic, it is idle. There is no changes at all. Everything is going fine. But it acts as a man in the middle attack. Why? Because in this case, whatever any traffic you are sent or receive, it will pass by your user. He will be able to see your credentials. He will be able to see your information. Whatever any traffic, it can be changed. This is one of the attacks which it can be handled against DNS. Of course, we have a lot of other things as caching, poisoning, and a lot of other things, but this is not our talk here. This you can study it very well about these things in certified ethical hackers hacking techniques, or CISSP, or whatever the course. Type, how we can protect the DNS security? How we make sure that this DNS, it is really coming from the same server. It is not coming from spoofing DNS. They are trying to use something called DNSSEC. DNS security. What is DNS security? DNS security, it is not changing the DNS functionality or anything, but what it will do something to add some information to make sure that this is a real traffic, which it's coming from the same server. What do you mean? Suppose that your DNS server, this is your DNS server. Okay, that's great. If there is any hacker, he was able to deviate the traffic into a spoofing DNS server or change the information, then whatever any traffic, it will come to the real DNS server, it will have a signature. It is called zone signing. It will have a signature. This signature, it shows that this server or this reply for your naming resolution, it is coming from the authorized server. How do you know authorized? It is an authorized server. This you will be to know the authorized server from digital certificates, which is using public and private keys. Then this means that the DNSSEC here, it will do something that two different functions, gentlemen. Two different functions. What are they? Function number one, it makes sure that it is coming, or the reply is coming from the authorized DNS server. That this it's the real DNS server, which is already authorized to make naming resolution for this domain. Second thing, to ensure integrity of the reply. Why? Can we change the reply? Yes, because man in the middle attack, a user sent to a DNS. What is www.microsoft.com? He will reply 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. If there is any hacker here, gentlemen, and he knows that there is a traffic, then what he will do, he will sit here and he will take this traffic reply. Of course, this it will not be available. And instead of saying that here it's saying 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, here it will say it's 212.93.201.1. Then the www.itcertificates.com, although you are sending to the authorized server, you are sending to the authorized server, but unfortunately, there is a man in the middle attack and he will change it. But if we are using the digital signatures, and which is based on the public and the private keys, then this means that we will be able to protect our data. Not data, I mean our connectivity. Why? Because the DNSSEC, it will protect the integrity of the DNS lookup, because DNS lookup, if there is any changes in the integrity or in the data which is coming from this server, immediately here it will be it will understand. Let me clarify a point for you here to make life easy. What I am explaining now, it is, I don't want to say complex or complicated. It is simple, very simple. If we will draw it, it will be very simple. But this is not covered in the CCSP. Then what I want you to know to understand these things, that this, it will protect by using the zone signing, and here it will protect the integrity of the DNS lookup and reply. These are the information which I want you to know. This is very important. Also, I want you to know that this is not any additional functionality on the server, but this, it will be a matter of creating public and private key for the server and enable the zoning signing. Unfortunately, this feature, although it is known since a long time, but it's not valid in all the servers. It is not applied in all the servers. When there are some servers, they know this feature, and there are some others we don't know this service. Okay. Another topic for the secure connectivity is the virtual private network. What is virtual private network? Can you tell me what is a virtual private network?
It is basically something which encrypts the traffic, especially when you're trying to connect remotely to the corporate network or to an authenticated network. The communication is being encrypted so that no one else. I'm going to say so that I'm going to say just to ensure that it's a secured person who is authorized and who is authenticated can have access to the network.
Okay. Unfortunately, this is not an accurate answer.
Okay.
Why? Look, gentlemen, VPN, it is very simple that you are creating a virtual private network over a public network. That's it. What you mentioned, it is the IPsec features, not VPN. Because IPsec, it has 4 features: authentications, non-repudiation, to protect, confidentiality, integrity, non-repudiation, and authentication. These are the 4 features: confidentiality, integrity, non-repudiation, and authentication. This is the IPsec. But VPN definition, so simple: create a virtual private network over a public network. That's it. You have internet, public. You have 2 sites, have a private network between them, or maybe a user, and we have a private network here. Okay? When we will explain the VPN, I can say that the VPN, it can use IPsec. I can say use DLS or SSL, whatever the protocol. Okay? This is the VPN. Now, let's speak about the IPsec. It is the IP security. IP security, gentlemen, it is working on which layer?
Layer 3.
Yes, layer 3. Yes, on layer 3. Okay. The IPsec, it is working at layer 3, and it will be responsible for or features of the IPsec: authentication, protect confidentiality, protect integrity, and non-repudiation. Let me ask you a question which require just to think about. I will give you a scenario and I want you to think about it for a few minutes. 2 or 3 minutes, I will leave you to think about it. Now, suppose that I have my network and I want to protect my data. Do you think that it is a right decision to encrypt everything? Yes or no? And if yes, why? And if no, why? Okay, I will give you 2 minutes to think, and I will hear your feedback.
I think we said a lot of portion.
You are right. Unfortunately, I don't know how long did we miss. Okay, anyway, if you faced any problem in the part which we explained, I will answer your questions later, no problem. Then the SLA requirement here, it is very important. It is very important, very critical. It is very important and very critical. I want to tell the cloud service provider, please, I want to make vulnerability assessment on my devices. On my devices, is it possible? Of course, by the end of the day, it depends if you have services agreement, if you will allow you to do this exercise and all this stuff, it's up to you. Gentlemen, please don't be confused with your rights and what you can do. For example, let me give you an example. I have a service here for ES. You have ES service from the cloud service provider. You rent the servers. Let me put it in red. You install the operating system. You install the application and the data. These are your environment. Then, if you want to run vulnerability assessment against your responsibility, which are highlighted in red color, this it's easy. Don't have any problem. You can have a VM, put the vulnerability tool on it, and you can run it. It's up to you. No problem. You may not be able to run it here because here you must have an arrangement with the cloud service provider, and he will be a little bit hesitating because he will tell you that this means that you want to do it on a whole host, and this host it is not dedicated for you. We have multi-tenants. You will have a lot of other problems which you have to work very closely with them. But suppose that you have a SaaS service, you have a SaaS, you have Office 360, then servers, operating systems, application, data, it's under cloud service provider. You will not be able to make any vulnerability assessment. Then how can I make sure that this cloud service provider is doing the exercise correctly? As I told you, and as we will study in module number 6, if he will be governed by contracts and certifications, then it will be great. If he will provide you, for example, ISO 27001 certified infrastructure, this it will be great, because we know that in ISO 27001 they are caring about vulnerability assessment. They have audit for best practices, and what about batch management and all this stuff. Then these things, it should come in the service level agreement and the contracts, which unfortunately a lot of us we don't think about the SLA agreement at all when they sign with the cloud service provider. They think that it's a matter of what we can say, the service. I have the service, I am really happy with it. This is not enough. It is not enough. Okay, then this is very important, and you have to work very closely with the your cloud service provider for the SLA, for vulnerability scanning, for patch management, and all this stuff. As I told you, to avoid all these problems, if the cloud service provider, he will be able to get a report from independent auditor, or that he did the vulnerability assessment on his behalf, this it will be great. We don't have any problem. We can accept it. Or if he have industry or government certifications, if, for example, NCA regulation in Saudi Arabia, they are saying, yes, he is authorized, or in America, if they have any entity, they are saying, yes, he is BII best practice or whatever, certified, then we agree about it. Thank you very much. We don't have any problem. We will accept this as well. Okay. Any questions before going for a short break?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Let's continue our session. Okay, we have a very interesting topic for operating system hardening using baselines. What is baselines, gentlemen? What is the definition of a baseline? What is the definition of a baseline?
Is the basic thing you will deploy or your first defense, something like that. I deploy something in Intune Microsoft called Microsoft Security Baseline. So it was just basic security configuration or your baseline, which will be deployed in your machine or your devices.
Okay. Baseline, usually it is the minimum security or minimum secure configuration you require. This is the basic definition of a baseline. Then this means that when you want to have an operating system, you can create your baseline, which is getting operating system, install it, remove unnecessary services, remove unnecessary protocols, patch it, install the, remove the default accounts. Then this is the baseline. Then when there is any self-provisioning service for any server and we want to install an operating system on it, then this means that we can use this baseline and install it on your server. Okay? Operating system to make a baseline for it, it depends upon the type of the operating system or the operating system which you will use. For example, if you are using, for example, Windows, then there is a service called WSUS, which is Windows Server Update Service. Unfortunately, this service is expired right now. It's not available anymore. We are using SCCM instead, but this is a service which is mentioned in the CCSP. The WSUS, this is a tool that it can perform batch management for Windows operating system. It can make a batch management on Windows operating system. There is another tool from Microsoft, which it is called Microsoft Deployment Tool. And sorry. And this is a service. It's actually it's not a service. It's a group of services or group of tools, which is facilitate the automation of a server or desktop implementation. Server or desktop implementation. If you have Linux, then this it will be a different form. It depends upon the what is the name of the it is called build. We build, which build the number. It depends upon the build, and again you have to remove the services and unnecessary, rename default, and so on. It will be the same steps which you have. Also, there is another thing which is VMware. VMware, of course, why we are consider VMware here when we are speaking about operating systems, because it is something even lower than the operating system. It will be installed on the host directly. It will be installed on the host directly before the operating system. Again, the VMware, which is it is the base of the hypervisor. It is a base of the hypervisor for integrating the hypervisor, and the utility which is do the this functionality for the automating the batches and keep the host itself and the virtual machines running batched. It is called VUM, which is vSphere host. It's called the vSphere Update Manager. Update Manager. It will be used for updating the utility and make sure that it is up and running in a right way or in the outstanding way. Baseline compliance, gentlemen, it is very important because as we mentioned that it is not enough just to create the baseline, but you have to keep monitoring the baseline. You have to keep monitoring of the baseline. What do you mean by monitoring of the baseline? Monitoring of the baseline, as you know, that there are some tools which it can be used to make sure that this baseline, is it changed? Do we have any deviation from the baseline? Because if we have any deviation from the baseline, it will be a problem. It may be security breach or whatever, when we have to check what is the actual problem and so on. Then one of the important parts of the baseline, the scanning process to make sure that there is no deviation from the configuration which you approved. In some situation, if there is any deviation, it may be approved deviation. We don't have any problem. If you have any deviation which you know that this is approved, that's fine. If you know that it's approved, go ahead. But you have to update your documents. You have to update the basic documentation and so on. This is the most important point for us to make sure that it will fulfill your business needs. If it's working fine, we don't have any problem with it, but we have to keep an eye on it. We have to make sure that it's really the application which is, or the baseline which is already approved, and there is no deviation from the one which you configured. Also, we have to keep in our minds a very important issue. What is it? In some situation, gentlemen, in some situation, you may how we can say it? In some situation, you may find that the baselines, it will not fulfill your requirements. Why it will not fulfill your requirements? Because these requirements, they are deviated from the baseline which you have it, or the best recommendation, or whatever. It will represent a problem. Yes, it will represent a problem because it will consider it as a deviation, but it's okay. Why? Because we have to check it. We have to check the risk. And if it's okay, then I have to update the what we can say, update the documentation and approve it. And we have to ensure that when we install this baseline on the hosts, it is installed correctly. And it is installed correctly as it should be. There is no problems, or there is any problem when the baseline is configured and so on. Then this means that after you install the baseline configuration, you have to run an automated scanning software to make sure that it is the baseline, it's installed correctly. As we mentioned before, if we have any deviations, and these deviations, we checked it and we found that it's not representing any risks and it's acceptable for us, that's great, but it should go through what we call it, the change management process. It have to go through a batch management process. Whatever any baseline deviations approved through change management, it should be applied to the automated scanning tools, because if you did not apply it to the automated scanning tools, then the automated scanning tools, it will consider it as a risk or a deviation. But you have to mention that this is not a risk or it's not deviation, this is acceptable, and it went through the change management process. Patch management, another topic which we want to speak about it. And I think patch management, as you can see, gentlemen, now what we are speaking about the operations. We speak about vulnerability assessments, we speak about patch managements, about the operating systems hardening, all these things which we are speaking, we are the responsibilities of the operations team. We are the responsibilities of the operations teams. Of course, the batch management, it should go through some specific steps. It is very important to understand these steps. Number one, you have to be aware that there is a patch. How you know that there is a patch? You know, in some situation, Microsoft may announce 10 patches per time, or we don't know. Then it depends upon the manufacturer. They may send you an email. You have to run a scan for any new patch. When these patches, it will tell you that there is a new patches and you have to download it. It depends upon the nature of the manufacturer and how he will inform the customer that there are patches, and these patches should be installed, and a documentation about these patches and what are their criticality, is it high, low, medium, and so on. When we download these files, it should be downloaded on the machine. How it will be downloaded, it depends again on the nature, but some of the nature of the manufacturer. Some of them he will download it in zip file, some other proprietary format, other binary executable file where you have to double click on it and run it. It depends upon each vendor. Usually, when you download it, gentlemen, you have to make sure that this is the actual files. We are not changed. These files are not changed during the installation. And usually, it will be done through the hash. You remember the hashing, which we spoke about it, then we have to use the hash, because if the Microsoft will tell you hash is so and so, then when you download the file and you run hash algorithm against the file, and if you find that the two hashes are the same, then this means that the file does not change it and you can use it. If you found that the file it is changed, you have to drop this file and you will try to download it again. These changes, it can be intentionally or unintentionally. There may be some problem in the download when the file it was corrupted, or it may be a hacker and he's trying to compromise the patch and give you something to be installed, and it may give him a backdoor or whatever, which he will be able to access to view servers and operating systems. After you download the server, the patch, and you make sure that it is the real file, you have to install it. Of course, gentlemen, it is highly recommended to install it in a non-production environment. It is highly recommended to run it in non-production environment. You have to check if it's running properly, if there is no problems, if you have any customizations for your application, that these customizations, it will not be affected. Of course, you are in a non-production environment and you are in safe side, you can check it and do whatever any changes and create your documentation and the best recommendation for the installation process and so on. This it is a very important exercise. After you close or finalize this exercise in the non-production environment, you can do it in the production. And as we mentioned in cloud service provider, these patches batches don't represent any problem at all, because cloud service provider depends upon redundancy. Then if you have any server, it can be stopped temporarily till and run the other standby server till you update the patches on it, and when it will be ready, you can return this server back and do the same exercise with the standby. It is very important to verify that the patches are installed correctly. It is very important to understand that the patches are installed correctly. Otherwise, you will be in a real problem, because if it's not installed correctly, I am afraid that it may represent a risk or a problem for you. Then you have to do it in a proper way. You have to validate the patches and make sure that it is installed correctly. Also, don't forget to, and this is very important for the exam, don't forget to test the application after the patches are deployed. Don't forget to test the applications after the patches are deployed, because in some situation, gentlemen, you may have customization, or for any reasons it may affect the application, and if it's affect the application, users, we will not feel anything in the operating system or batches, but they will complain that the application is not working. Of course, usually you would say, did we make any changes? Yes, we update the patches. When you will review it, but this, it will affect the production and affect your operations. As a last part of...
Mr. Usama, one question, please.
Sure.
For the testing of the batch, it should be before the deployment or after?
Testing of the batch, it should be deployed before or after? Before or after what? The deployment, you mean?
Yes.
It depends.
I mean, we test the batch before the deployment or after?
It depends. First, you have to do it before the deployment in production to make sure that it will run correctly. You don't have any problem. There will be no effect on the applications. There is no problem on the customized application which you have it, and all this stuff. If you are satisfied and everything is running fine, then you have to install it and run the same test again on the production side.
Okay, that's great. One question, please. Like in a practical environment, from your part of experience, when you have a high security batch that you have to deploy it, and first you have to deploy it on a test environment, and then it will be after that it will be deployed to all the environment or the practical environment. How long should we wait until we validate the test? I'm talking here from your practical experience, as we have the same scenario and we debated and we have put it in 3 days, which is, I think it's too long.
Again, I will tell you the answer which you said that it's preferred. My preferred, it depends. If it's defined as critical, then 3 days, it will be very, very long. If it's defined as critical, it will be very long. If it's normal, then it will be okay. You got my point?
Yes. So in critical, how long do you think should we say? 1 day? 1 hour?
Yes, it should be something like that. It should be something like that, because if it's critical, then this just, you know, I can understand the point of view of the management. You are corrupting our operation, so on. So I can understand all these things, but you can work it with them with a different way. Okay, that's fine. I can leave it for you for 100 days. But do you really ready to accept the risk? If there is any hacker who was able to penetrate it, especially when it is discovered, then immediately hackers, they will try to utilize this attack, or I mean utilize this vulnerability. It depends again, Mahmoud, and this, it should be handled with the manufacturer. There are some things which manufacturer, they are saying, no, this is very critical, no discussion, you must do it. No discussion.
The time. Okay.
No discussion. Because this, it will affect, for example, the operating system. It will affect the privileged rings. Then this means that the hackers can take the control over operating system. We can escalate permissions. We can do X, we can do Y, and so on. In some others, okay, if you will wait for some time, that's fine. And I don't know if this it was for you or for the other training. I asked it, what will happen if I am not able to implement the fix right now? What will happen if I am not able to implement the fix right now? Terminate the service. Stop the service. Don't allow the service to work.
Okay.
Don't give a back door for a hacker. Gentlemen.
Okay, and that policy,
sorry?
I mean, that policy that you just said, it will be deployed in 27001, right?
27001. Yes, of course,
ISO, I mean.
of course,
Yeah, okay. So it will be responsible from that part.
of course. 27001 visits the what we can say, yani, the summary of all the requirements of the security. Okay. We
Okay,
have
okay.
something called infrastructure. Infrastructure as a code. And frankly speaking, gentlemen, this is the first time to hear about this. This I did not hear it before, but I like it very much. Infrastructure as a code. Yani usually we are saying as a service, but as a code, what is this? This is a very interesting topic. It is utilizing the configuration management in a form of files, a form of configuration tools. Why? Because we want to have an interface between the cloud service providers and the customer. Usually in the traditional data center, you have configuration tools. Okay, for Microsoft, you have SSCM. You may have for Unix, what is called, I'm not sure about it. When these are the tools.
Ansible.
Sorry?
Ansible.
Okay.
Ansible and Terraform.
Perfect. Then these are the tools which are available. But when we come to the cloud and you want to make an interface and you want to make a configuration and all these things, and you need something to deploy virtual machines and so on, so then you need some sort of APIs and as we mentioned, application program interface. You need scripts and commands which it will be integrated, or it will be interfaced with the cloud service provider, which it will provide you more features and enable this feature. This it is the role of the infrastructure as a cloud. I can see in the chat that Mahmoud, he mentioned some names, and I really appreciate Mahmoud if you can elaborate more about these tools, because for myself, I am not familiar with these tools. And even Prem, he mentioned some of them. When Mahmoud, please elaborate more about what is it? Ansible.
Ansible. Ansible is the
He
software.
mentioned Terraform. Then please elaborate more about these tools, gentlemen.
Yeah, Ansible is like a software tool that enable for infrastructure as a code. It's an open source. It's for software provision and configuration, and also application deployment. So it's like when you can put your whole infrastructure on a simple USB as a code. Once, if you want to redeploy it again or any other cloud service provider, it's vendor natural. You can just double click on it, and it will be scripts, and it will run, and it will redeploy your whole infrastructure.
Excellent. Then this means that if you want to migrate from one cloud service provider to other, it seems as import and export import configuration.
Yeah, it's like the hottest topic right now in cloud. I'm studying it actually, and it's very, very, very good.
Okay. I like this very much, and I think this will be very helpful. Mahmoud, if you have some documents related for it, please send it to us on the WhatsApp group, or even some URLs or whatever. I really appreciate this. It will be very helpful for me as well.
Sure.
Okay, Prem, can you elaborate more about the Terraform?
Yeah, sure. So Terraform is also an open source. Okay, so basically it's a software tool. So basically you can spin virtual machines. You can do a resource scaling. and then you can do a kind of a resource pooling all in just in I think with just a few lines of code. Again, not a license required. I mean to say, you can, since it's an open source tool, you can get it, I think, with a minimal fee, and then you can install it. So just with I mean to say, it comes quite handy, especially during I mean to say rapid scaling. You can spin virtual machines with the different configurations and other things all in this one. So it's like more like a template. The same template is being, you can utilize it for a particular customer, or for a multiple customers you can make different templates. And then whenever actually there's a kind of a resource exhaustion, it will automatically detect and then actually use those the IAC codes, and then it will spin virtual machines.
Excellent, excellent.
Sir, I will send the link in the WhatsApp group. There is a entire Terraform course which is freely available in YouTube.
Excellent.
It's a 6 hours, I think, program where it starts from the scratch as if you do not have any knowledge, and it gives you this one.
Perfect. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Mahmoud. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. This is really helpful, and I think this is a very interesting topic for me as well. And I think, as Mahmoud he mentioned, now this is the talk of the town, especially now we start to speak about multiple cloud concept and migration, portability, interoperability, and all these things. Then these tools, it will be very helpful to do this exercise. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you. Okay, I have a question, gentlemen, for you. It seems that it is a silly question, but frankly speaking, it is an entrapment question. Do we need physical hosts on a cloud for customers? Of course, for creating VMs and all this stuff, okay. But do you think that customer need to rent physical host? Yes or no? And why?
I'm sorry, I'm rephrasing the question. So you are saying that is the customer required to rent a physical host in a cloud setup?
Yes, you're right. This is my question. I said that it seems that it's a silly question, but frankly speaking, it's an entrapment question.
No, it is not as silly as I mean to say. I'm repeating your answer. It depends. Basically, there are certain customers wherein they don't believe anything on the cloud service provider. So it is driven by the contract, especially US government. They will not believe whether there is a cloud, whatever cloud service provider. So sometimes I mean, it's governed by the contract and by the customers' privacy and security policies. Especially if you are dealing with US federal, I think they would like to have their physical hosts, even though in the cloud service providers I mean it's infrastructure. That's my answer.
Okay, this is one of the answers. Yes, we have two reasons, gentlemen. Why do you need to hire, not hire, lease physical server? This one of them. Any other answers from the others? Any feedback or input from the others?
Like it's have your data on your dedicated hosts. In our case,
this is the same answer as Brem he mentioned. It's matter of compliance, and you need to have a physical or private infrastructure. But this private infrastructure, it will be hosted in a cloud service provider. You don't want to have the tenants or multi-tenants. Then you will rent the physical server host for you. We create VMs, the whole host with the VMs. It will be yours. with the same answer. It may be a matter of compliance, it may be a matter of privacy, it may be a matter of security, just name it. I don't care. But by the end of the day, okay, I can understand. What else? Do we have any other reasons? Yes, we have one more reason, gentlemen, performance. Do you know that, for example, if you have a database, it is highly recommended to run on a physical device, not on a VM. Then in some situation, you may ask your cloud service provider to provide you a physical host because the application that it is recommended to run on, especially databases on physical devices. This, it will improve the performance, especially if you have a database with very high data rate, or I mean size and incremental sizes and so on. Okay.
Sir, one question. Oracle is coming up with an autonomous database also, which can work actually virtually also. So, will that not be, I mean to say, will that not be considered?
Yes, now there are other alternatives, a lot of other alternatives. For example, now in SAP, they load the memory into the. We are not using Oracle anymore. They dropped Oracle, and which is HANA 4. We are loading the operating system in the RAM. Yani, you know, SAP, it was integrated totally with Oracle. Now they dropped Oracle and we are saying, thank you very much. We will load the operating system into, the database into the RAM. We require 3 terabyte RAM. When, of course, new technologies, it will come with a lot of ideas. But now we are speaking based on the CCSP materials, which it was updated almost 6 years, a month ago. But anyway, we still speak about these hosts, and we are speaking about hosts and what are the reasons: performance, compliance, and private network, and so on. Type. I can understand that virtualization, it will be able to protect the servers by VM migration. Okay, I can understand VM migration. But how we can protect the availability of host servers? We will use what is called cluster. What is the cluster? It is 2 or more. It depends upon the cluster software, 2 or more. They will act as a single server. For example, 1.1.1.1, but actually this, it is address 2.2.2.2, and this 2.2.2.2.1. And the user, he will use 1.1.1.1. The software here, it will check which server it's free and it send the traffic for him. This if they are acting as active. If they are acting as active standby, then this means that one of them, it is active, and if it's down for any reason, the other, it will take over. The same concept, it will be with the storage, gentlemen. You will have a storage cluster. You will have a storage cluster. It is the same concept. Why the storage cluster, it will be utilized? It will be utilized for high availability, and it will be utilized for performance. Because usually, as we mentioned in this example, if we are using this IP address, it will check which one is free. And the one which it has the less load, it will send the traffic for it. Then this means that it will increase the performance. Okay. We have something called maintenance mode. This maintenance mode, this is, we mentioned that usually in the time which is required by the physical hosts, to upgrade, patch, whatever any activities require that you have to downtime. And you know that in big organizations, usually they will develop a schedule for downtime. They will tell you we'll have 6 downtime per year, and these are the times. When if I want to downtime, I know that the next downtime it will be at this time, which it can be utilized for any operation or update or batch or whatever. This which we call it maintenance mode. What is the main factor of maintenance mode help in cloud? It is the redundancy, or which we call it also HA. If you have 2 devices, we are working together, this it will be very easy. Of course, it is very important for compliance and operation that it should be mentioned in the SLA. For how many times it will be down, because this it will be very important. If they need to get down the services, we have to mention how this it will be down and for how long it will be down and all this information. We have another concept which is very important in operations, very, very important: monitoring. You have two different monitoring techniques by CCSP, gentlemen. Performance monitoring and when we are speaking about performance monitoring, we are thinking about 4 things. This is very important for the exam. You have to memorize it. 4 important things to be monitored for performance. What are they? CPU, RAM, disk, network. These are the things which you have to monitor. This considered as computing, with storage, with the network as a network. These are the things which you have to monitor. It is very important to memorize these 4 factors. We have also the hardware monitoring. We have also hardware monitoring. It is very important to monitor the hardware. But this hardware monitoring, usually you need the arranging with the cloud service provider. Because this hardware, if you want to monitor it, of course, you may not be able to monitor it without the work with the cloud service provider. But this is very important. You have to make sure that it will be monitored in a proper way. Okay. Also, we have the backup and restore functions. Here, take care, gentlemen, because this it will confuse you. When we are saying here backup and restore functions, I'm not saying for data. I'm saying for configuration. Of course, you are familiar with this. I can have a copy of a firewall, of a router, of a switch, of whatever. Then you have to work very close with the cloud service provider and the SLA to allow you to upload the configuration of your VM, of your virtual switch, of your virtual firewall, and so on. And as you mentioned now by Mahmoud and Prem, we mentioned that we can run some application which we can export some configuration which it can be imported later, and this can be very helpful for the future what we can say, migration of the services from one cloud service provider to other, or from cloud service provider to on-prem. Okay, then backup and restore here, it does not mean for data. No, it is not for data. It is for the configuration. It is for the configuration. Okay. I think we are done for today because the next topic, it is long one, and I don't want to split it into 2 days. It will speak about some things which are frankly speaking, they are not important, but just we want you to know about them. That's great. It's good to know about these things. That's fine. It is not so important, but we have to explain. And we will tell you about some services from the ITIL, change management and all this stuff. Well, okay, that's fine. This it will be nice to have, but it will not be any mandatory to know about it, but it's okay. Let's have a look on it. This it will take, by the way, tomorrow we will finish module number 5, and this is the reason why I don't want to start it today, because we will have drop in between. Then we will continue it for tomorrow, inshallah. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, what is the difference between backup and restore? Because because sometimes I think I get a little bit confused, because and some people and some places also, they interchangeably use the word, but I think there is a difference between a backup and a restore.
Of course, there is a big backup. Sorry, I mean there is a big difference. You have a server. It has a data. You want to make a backup. This means that you may have a backup tape. You may have a storage. You may have external hard disk. Whatever the media. When you make a backup here on this one, usually when you will make a backup, there is 2 methods or 2 ways where you want to keep this backup. It may be on-site or off-site. Off-site, this means that you are keeping this device outside the premises. On-site, you mean you are keep it in your organization. For some reasons, the data it's lost on the server, or you want to install the server is down, and you bought a new server, you want to restore it again. Then you will have in the server, you install the operating system, the application. When you want to restore the data. Restore the data means that you are moving the data back into the server. This is the backup. This is the restore. In other words, you have your desktop brand in home. You have my documents. You have a lot of things. You have photos, you have documents, you have your financial statements, you have a lot of information. I'm quite sure that all of you will have an external hard disk. Then, when you are copying this information to the external hard disk, you are doing a backup. When you buy a new notebook and you want to copy the information from this hard disk into your new notebook, it will be restored. This is the difference between both of them. Any other questions?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. I think we are done for today.